kidding. If you feel the same as me, you gotta wanna take the ball.
And certainly I would disavow if I thought there was something wrong. But you may have groups in there that are totally fine, and it would be very unfair. So give me a list of the groups, and I'll let you know.
Okay, I mean, I'm just talking about David Duke and the Ku Klux Klan here.
This man has no dick.
Ghostbusters 2 was a movie that Ivan Reitman, Harold Ramis, and Dan Aykroyd had no interest in making. From their perspective, the original 1984 Ghostbusters was a self-contained story and conclusive. But with the huge success of the real Ghostbusters cartoon show, the studio became interested in having a proper Ghostbusters sequel made. A sit-down meeting was held with Reitman, Ramis, Aykroyd, and Bill Murray, and the four had a ton of laughs. A pitch was made to Bill Murray about the plot to a second Ghostbusters, and Murray was sold, and he quickly signed up for the movie.
Suck in the guts, guys. We're the Ghostbusters.
Then, when he was given the script, he found that the movie that was pitched to him was sadly missing. He has been very vocal about his disappointment with Ghostbusters 2, stating it is the reason he has been so reticent to agree to Ghostbusters 3. Ernie Hudson wrote an essay discussing his disappointment with the series for minimalizing his character. Dan Aykroyd seems satisfied with Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff in the second movie, a lot of great stuff. Makes it a very worthy companion to the first for a sequel, you know.
Ivan Reitman does as well, but less so.
We weren't as naive when we went into it, and that was good and it was bad. And I think that was sort of an interesting, different psychology to it. I think we also had this sort of weight of this extraordinary success on our shoulders, and I think we had waited a long time to do the second one, probably too long.
The cast and crew aren't the only people divided on Ghostbusters 2. This has turned into a very divisive movie over the years, with people even saying it's as good as the first movie, while others consider it one of the worst movies ever made. Most people land in the middle of this range, which is relatively easy. It's usually considered either good, but not as good as the first one, or bad, but with some decent elements. With a rep like that, finding flaws here certainly won't be a problem.
Yeah, I'm finished here.
This is a long one, and the big reason it is so low on this list is because it's an incidental theme of the original movie, and clearly, with the sequel, not authorial intent. But just because it wasn't intended doesn't mean it isn't there. This is a theme that fans have been compiling over the years about the first Ghostbusters. None of this is my idea, but the movie does give us evidence to suggest everything here. The original 1984 Ghostbusters has a relatively strong anti-religion interpretation.
Nobody steps on a church in my town!
I'll break it down here. Remember Gozer, a made-up god for the first movie? So that means that ghosts and gods exist in the Ghostbusters universe. And what religion is brought up constantly when referencing the events at the end of the original Ghostbusters?
Do you remember something in the Bible about the last days when the dead would rise from the grave?
Personally, Lenny, I think it's a sign from God.
I remember Revelation 7:12.
Or you could accept the fact that this city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion.
And I looked as he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became as black as sackcloth, and the moon became as blood.
What do you mean, biblical? What he means is Old Testament, Mr. Mayor. Real wrath of God type stuff.
Exactly.
And the seas boiled and the skies fell.
Judgment Day.
Judgment Day.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes, the dead rising from the grave.
So, if a Sumerian god is bringing about the biblical apocalypse, we can assume that Gozer is likely the same god as the biblical god, just under a different name.
When someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes!
So how do they handle a god in that movie?
I have a radical idea. The door swings both ways. We could reverse the particle flow through the gate.
How?
We'll cross the stream.
Well, they kill the god with scientific equipment. No Ajante dagger, or spear of destiny, or magic bullet.
Which way to go?
I don't know, but he went that way.
Let's go.
The characters make a scientific device capable of killing gods. For all intents and purposes, they are killing gods with science.
Yes, science!
You can very easily say the message of the first Ghostbusters is ancient religions will kill us all unless science can save us.
We came, we saw, we kicked its ass!
After watching the second one, we see this was clearly not authorial intent. It doesn't mean the theme doesn't hold up in the first movie, because it does quite well. What breaks in the second one is how the characters decide to use supernatural slime to defeat the villain.
Oh, good slime, good slime. Winston, is our slime in a good mood tonight?
I hope so.
That simple act breaks the whole theme of the first movie. They are no longer just using science, but rather some supernatural element to defeat the bad guys now. And honestly, it makes this movie feel that much more shallow.
John, thanks.
Hey, you finished?
Yeah, I'm finished here.
Part of why the studio wanted to make this movie was because of the success of the real Ghostbusters cartoon show on TV. In many ways, they were more interested in making a live-action version of the cartoon rather than a proper sequel. This is why Janine and Slimer look different. They're made to match their cartoon counterparts. They also cut down the smoking and the adult jokes, giving this movie a far simpler feel.
2 in the box!
Ready to go.
We be fast and
They be slow.
wow!
Why this is annoying is because it's not like the first movie is child inappropriate. It just has parts that go over children's heads, which is what good family movies frequently do.
Why worry? Each of us is wearing an unlicensed nuclear accelerator on his back.
Let's get ready. Switch me on.
What's the point of Ray being controlled by Vigo? We see Ray get a weird whammy on him when they are scanning the museum, but do they do anything with this? Not really. There's a quick bit at the end where Ray is taken over by Vigo, which ends just as quickly as it began.
No! I, Ray, and Vigo shall rule the earth. Be gone, you pitiful outmen!
It's a bit that adds nothing to the movie and could have been cut and not hurt anything. In fact, it would only help it.
Ray, we'd like to shoot the monster. Could you move, please?
The opening of this movie begins with some of the cheesiest opening music ever. Granted, the first movie has plenty of cheese in the music. But it kept the cheese to an appropriate level, where here, right off the bat, it's completely over the top. In the first movie, we got the great bit at the library. We see mysterious stuff, but we don't know the source. We get something similar here with the baby carriage, but never feels creepy. It probably largely comes from the fact that people wouldn't ignore a woman crying out to have someone stop the baby carriage.
Stop that carriage!
They would respond to that rather than letting the baby fly off. And when the movie breaks realism that much, it's hard to get really invested. I think a much better opening for this movie would have been if they did a similar setup to the original. But then, rather than cut away once the ghost shows up, we see the ghost, because after all, we saw Ghost in the first one already. Then, almost immediately, the Ghostbusters capture that ghost before it can do any damage, and perhaps Peter makes some sort of quip.
We be fast and
They be slow!
And then the title pops up. This would establish that the world of the sequel is different, that ghosts exist, but they aren't a huge deal because the Ghostbusters have been around and know the drill. But the reason they don't take this route is a complaint that comes later on this list. Eddie Murphy was originally planned to play Winston when the original movie was being scripted, but when that didn't work out, they cast Ernie Hudson and scaled back his role. So that movie has a reason why Winston is in it less.
If there's a steady paycheck in it, I'll believe anything you say.
The sequel doesn't have the same excuse. He seems to pop up and disappear at random locations with no real explanation. He's at the courtroom.
Wow, sounds like a pretty open-minded guy, huh?
But then he's gone during the actual ghost attack. Granted, it's not like these movies spend much time developing Egon and Ray, but they at least get more attention.
You're not sleeping with it, are you, Ray?
Oh, you. It's always the quiet ones.
You how?
Winston just feels like some guy that hangs around whenever the script wants him. Honestly, you can cut him completely out of this movie without any story impact, which is a real shame because Hudson does a great job in the role and deserves much better.
I've only been with the company for a couple of weeks, but I gotta tell you, these things are real. Since I joined these men, I have seen shit that'll turn you white.
Ghosts seem to target Dana in these movies. It was one thing in the first one because this was her first encounter, but for some reason she just happens to find herself in the wrong place at the wrong time for some ghost to want to get her. Well, I guess this time the target is really her baby, but still, her luck is outrageously bad. There's a deleted scene that attempted to explain this.
Why me? Why my baby carriage? Is there something about me that just attracts these supernatural things?
It's possible you have a genetically linked etheric emanation that predisposes you to paranormal vulnerability.
And honestly, that would have been enough, except this is a deleted scene, and we can't draw any conclusions on the movie based on a deleted scene because it's not part of the movie. The movie starts out with the Ghostbusters disgrace because people think the events at the end of the first movie were somehow faked.
You know, my dad says you guys are full of crap.
Jason, well, some people have trouble believing in the paranormal.
No, he just says you guys are full of crap and that's why you went out of business.
This is a clear attempt just to reset the board so the movie can replay a lot of the same moments from the first movie. So let's just go ahead and assume there were no ghosts at the end of the first movie and that the Ghostbusters faked those events.
Boy, I didn't know you could get that loaded.
Then the Ghostbusters are pretty much terrorists and they would be thrown in prison.
So be good. For goodness sake. Whoa, somebody's coming.
We have to get out of here.
Not only did they inflict massive property damage, I refuse to believe, with all the destruction at the end of that movie, that there are zero casualties.
Oh, will you look at that? Oh, just call me Mr. Butterfingers.
There is an argument saying that it's the slime making people doubt the authenticity of the Ghostbusters, and I do like this idea since it does play into the movie, but sadly I have to call bullshit on it.
Inconceivable! You keep using the word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
It only works if the slime creates negative emotions, but it is clearly shown to feed off emotions.
Nothing but an unstable short-chain molecule!
After all, the slime can be positively or negatively charged. Otherwise, the bullshit Statue of Liberty stuff wouldn't work.
Man, I can't wait to see people's faces when we come on shore. This should really get the city's positive energy flowing, huh, Vicky?
Hey, finished here. Song.
There's something strange in the neighborhood. Who you gonna call?
So, wait, does this mean Ray Parker Jr. exists in this universe too? Was that Ray Parker Jr. also sued by Huey Lewis and the News? Does Huey Lewis exist in this universe? The Ghostbusters song was made as a tie-in for the first movie. Does Ghostbusters 1984 also exist in this universe? What actors were in the movie? Do Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, and Ernie Hudson exist in this universe? Ugh, this is so confusing.
I can't talk about it anymore. It's giving me a headache.
Here, take 2 of these.
Ah, new print. Little, yellow, different.
Ghostbusters 2 seems far more interested in remaking the first movie than telling a natural sequel. The first movie shows the Ghostbusters as discredited professors under the weight of a bunch of mortgages.
But at 19%, you didn't even bargain with the guy.
Ray, for your information, the interest rate alone for the first 5 years comes to $95,000.
In an attempt to get their business started.
You don't think it's too subtle, Marty? You don't think people are going to drive down and not see the sign?
In the sequel, they're disgraced under the weight of many lawsuits.
Conjured up a 100-foot marshmallow man through the top 3 floors off an uptown high-rise, ended up getting sued by every state, county, and city agency in New York.
Trying to investigate recent paranormal events. Then, a paranormal event puts them back into action. The Ghostbusters are arrested in the original.
I want this man arrested! Captain, these men are a criminal violation of the Environmental Protection Act! And this explosion is a direct result of it! Your mother!
Where here they are committed.
Would you consider telling this slime business to some of our people downtown?
It's got to be done right away.
The impression it all comes back! What's gonna come back? This city's in danger! The whole state, the whole world!
All the paranormal stuff builds into a major event. The Ghostbusters have to prove themselves to the mayor again.
Nah, I didn't believe it at first either.
The Ghostbusters summon a giant to walk through the city. The big difference is about everything that's copied from the original averages out to only be about half as good. Them being in disgrace makes no sense, but I already went over that. The courtroom scene is alright. It's not as awesome as the restaurant scene in the first one, but it's not a bad scene by any means. The montage where the business hits their stride is serviceable in the second, but much better in the first. The jokes are better, and Ghostbusters by Ray Parker Jr. is a much better song than Ghostbusters by Run DMC.
Certified check, cash or money order! Yo, is that what I did? Did I see something move?
The Ghostbusters being arrested and paranormal activities skyrocketing are events directly related to each other in the original, whereas in the second, the paranormal spike just happens to occur after they're committed. Walter Peck has legitimate questions he's asking the Ghostbusters that Venkman is blowing off because Peck is an asshole.
Exactly what are you a doctor of, Mr. Venkman?
Causing the situation to blow up, which all actually seems rather logical. Here, the mayor's assistant is just an ass and takes advantage of the situation to commit the Ghostbusters. Then we have the ghosts all over the place montage, which is good in both movies, but the song really lets it down in the second one. In the first movie, it's Mick Smiley's Magic, which provides a cool and somewhat creepy vibe to the events. In the second, it's Glenn Frey's Flip City, which is a song I enjoy on its own, but gives the scene of the ghost overtaking Manhattan more of a fun vibe than it should. Then we're at comparing the Statue of Liberty walking around downtown New York to the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man managed that rather impossible task of being both menacing and funny all at the same time. The Statue of Liberty is just hokey and forced, especially since it's never established that they can in any way control the slime. They can just use it to make a toaster bounce.
Shake it up!
Making a toaster bounce and having the Statue of Liberty walk are far different things. It's not like the Statue of Liberty has leg joints installed. Actually, the Statue of Liberty doesn't even have legs. So this means the second movie just largely ends up feeling like a substandard remake of the first movie. As you might be able to guess, I'm doing this video so I can also talk about a reboot coming out soon. A reboot with a very questionable trailer. Of course I'm talking about Star Trek Beyond. Seriously, what was up with that Fast and Furious style teaser they released a while ago?
Is that music?
It's a good choice.
Hey, well played.
Okay, so I'm really talking about the new all-female Ghostbusters coming out that pretty much the entire internet has decided will be the worst movie ever made in the history of humankind. I haven't said much about it, but I actually have some controversial opinions on this movie. The trailers have mostly iffy to bad jokes in them. There are a total of 2 jokes I've seen so far that have made me chuckle.
asked Kevin to throw together a couple of logos for us.
Oh, you do see how this might make us look bad.
Is it the boobs you don't like? Because I can make them bigger.
Don't upset the ghost. Really?
So in my opinion, these trailers are mediocre, but I won't consider them the worst trailers ever by any means. For a comparison, look at the trailers to last year's Spy.
Don't let me down, Cooper.
I will not. I will let you up.
Stop talking.
I will let you up.
They kinda suck, but that movie, while not a great work of art, is fairly funny. In fact, Paul Feig has a reasonably solid track record as a director. He's not great, but he is entertaining. If I were just to look at Feig's track record and the trailers in isolation, I would assume this new Ghostbusters would likely have landed somewhere between the original and Ghostbusters 2 in quality. Nowhere near as good as the original, but a fair bit better than the sequel. However, what does trouble me about this movie is how the studio, the cast, and the director have handled the blow-up. I do feel like the internet blew up way too strongly at what was really just a mediocre to bad trailer. I would consider the Doomsday Batman v Superman trailer a fair bit worse.
Oh, shit.
Of course, the internet has a rather hyperbolic sensibility. I mean, that's part of what I'm going for on my channel. But rather than just say they made the best movie they could and they hope people enjoy it, Feig decided it would be better to insult nerd culture in general. Melissa McCarthy followed suit in a similar manner. Sony decided to delete comments on the trailer criticizing it for its quality and leave up the comments left by the misogynist assholes who just don't like the idea of a team of women Ghostbusters, and thus make the movie look like a victim of sexism. If you want to know more about the production of this movie, I recommend checking out Midnight's Edge and seeing their reports on it. I seriously wrote a fucking video defending this movie, saying that the director is fine and that the trailers aren't the extreme car wrecks people are making them out to be. But the people behind the movie have made it pretty much impossible for me to justify defending it, which is a fucking disaster in and of itself, because I want this movie to be good. I want my daughter to have an awesome Ghostbusters movie with characters she can easily relate to. But rather than tell the audience to just give it a chance, they decide to try to get people to hate watch it. At least, I'd guess that's their strategy with how they've handled the promotion. What the fuck type of demographic is that to shoot for? No matter the quality of the actual movie, it's fair to say it's the most poorly promoted movie of possibly all time. No promotion would be better than this wreck. But again, there is a reason I'm reviewing Ghostbusters 2 now, and it's because no matter what people might say, this reboot won't in any way harm the original. If a movie could take down the original a peg or two, it would have been done by Ghostbusters 2, which isn't terrible, but certainly isn't good either. It's got a lot of good jokes.
How's school? Bet those science chicks really dig that large cranium of yours, huh?
I think they're more interested in my epididymis.
But nothing as strong as the best the first one had to offer. I think the concept behind the emotion slime where New York has just become this nasty place and it's starting to actually make nasty things generate is an interesting concept that they don't do nearly enough with. And when they do something with that concept, it's pretty fucking stupid. If you want to see another Ghostbusters movie with the original crew together, then sadly, this is what you got. And this is a group of incredibly talented guys. But rather than try to do something new, or at least a natural progression of the first movie, they are literally just trying to recapture the magic that the first movie was. And that is by far this movie's biggest downfall. Having callbacks to the first movie is fine, but remaking the first movie in your sequel is a tall order. The only way to truly pull it off is if you get a talented group of different people who can take a similar plot and do different stuff with it from their different perspective. That's why The Force Awakens feels fresh and entertaining, while Ghostbusters 2 feels stale. It was already done before with these same guys doing it. I give Ghostbusters 2 a 5 out of 10.
To go. The ex-wife took the whole damn planet in the divorce.
bones.
Hey, if you like this video, please make sure to hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe. That helps me out a lot. And if you really love this video, consider visiting my Patreon page.